Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week, and this is the show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week and everything in between. Before I get started, I do have a Kickstarter going on for my webtoon Slice of Life. It's about an anime character that comes to life and falls in love with a high school cheerleader, so hopefully you guys could go check that out. And of course, at the end of the video, we talk about the viewer's pick of the week, so if you have a pick of the week, please let me know in the comments below for a chance at one of your comments to be featured on the show. Now, let's jump into this week's comics. I had 10 books, so a pretty average size haul, and number 10 for me is Elektra issue 100, a book I was honestly really looking forward to. I feel like Elektra, as an individual, does not get as many times to shine as I would like. I like that she was in the Daredevil run. She had that little mini-series, but with ongoing books, I want to see more from her. So to celebrate issue 100, I thought was pretty cool. Now, with this issue, I felt like it wasn't as connected as I thought it was going to be. I thought this was going to be bigger to Elektra's story, but it really is just an anniversary issue where it's like, here's this random story about her past, and here's another story, kind of love letter between her and Daredevil, which is like, oh, I just wanted to see Elektra in this. This is not the celebration of their relationship, it's a celebration of Elektra as a character. And honestly, I just felt underwhelmed. I thought the artwork for the second story was, pretty solid, but the first story I thought was, a little rushed, in my opinion, and also more old school than I expected from the art style as well, which is not a negative, just wasn't what I was expecting. So overall, I felt like the story just didn't do it for me, and I was expecting a lot more from this issue. So I gave that 2 stars, and that is number 10. Moving on to number 9, which is Image issue 1. That's all it's called. This is Image Comics anniversary issue. It's the 30th anniversary issue. Reason I got it is I'm a big Radiant Black fan, and I wanted to see that side story with him. And then also, I like the idea of celebrating Image Comics. I wanted to see what would come from this. Would this tease what's coming up for Image, or was it just going to be random side stories? And it kind of happened with the latter. Maybe these stories will connect in the future, but there was no teaser of like, oh, this is connected to this book, or, we're celebrating Spawn, or we're celebrating, Youngblood, or Witchblade. I thought it would be more connected to the bigger franchises of the company, but honestly, they just showcase these small stories that are gonna continue in the future of these issues, but it doesn't really give you an idea of, will this continue in other series? It just was, oh, you have Jeff Johns, you have Mirka Ondolfo, who's, bigger creators that have worked with Image doing stories here, and I didn't think that was enough of a glue to make this a cohesive one-shot. And even the Radiant Black story, I liked it, but I was like, oh, I could kind of get that story in the main book. I didn't feel like I necessarily needed this issue. And obviously, it's a pretty pricey book. It's a pretty long book as well. So overall, giving that 2 stars, and that is number 9. Moving on to number 8, a book I was also really excited for this weekend, disappointed with, and that is Flashpoint Beyond issue 0. Now, this is an issue 0. Maybe issue 1 will be a total different direction, but this one was very explainy and reminded me a lot of all the other, hey, we're gonna have a crisis event books and then never really do anything with it. One being Doomsday Clock, a story I liked the beginning of, but then you kind of saw, okay, where is this actually going? Future State being very similar. They reference 5G here, and it's just like, okay, all the times you're like, we're gonna do something big and then not really do anything. I'm kind of tired of having, the bacon in front of me and never being able to eat it. And that kind of what it felt here. We saw the Mimes character again, and I'm like, okay, like, I feel like I'm kind of over Doomsday Clock. Do I need to see these characters again? What's new about this? And I just didn't feel like it drove home Thomas Wayne's character arc as much as I think it should have with a book like this, instead of focusing on, 5G, here's a reference to that. Do you know the 10,000 multiverses that are here? This is this. And the Omniverse, or whatever they're calling all these multiverses now, from death metal. There's a lot of references to that. And I just don't think I'm as invested in those stories as I was a couple years ago, just because it's been teased for so long and without any payoff. And I felt like that was kind of most of the book. But I am going to give issue 1, I think, a try. I want to see if it's any different from issue 0. I'm hoping the issue 0 is just an exposition dump, and then we'll get the character story that we deserve with Thomas Wayne. But even the art style I thought could have been stronger. It usually is stronger with these type of books. I felt like the coloring was a little inconsistent, and just the tone of the book was a little inconsistent when it came from the art. And I actually thought there was 2 different artists, but it was a consistent artist here. But yeah, I was just a bit underwhelmed with this one. So I'm giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 8. Moving on to number 7, which is Batgirls, issue 5, a book that, I love these characters, and I think there's some good fun moments between them, but it goes back to I don't care about Future State, so to reference a lot of those moments from, that time, it just isn't as interesting to me. But I like, Barbara, I like Cassandra, and I love Stephanie, and I love all those characters, but I want to see more of their interaction. I honestly like the slice of life aspect of this book more than the superhero stuff, and this issue focused a bit more on the superhero stuff, which is why it's a little lower than some of the previous issues. And the artwork, I think it's still a little darker than I expect from a book like this, but overall I want to see where the end of this arc goes, and if it's what direction it's going to go past the Future State storylines that we've been seeing here. So overall, giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 7. Moving on to number 6, which is Captain Carter, issue 2. And, honestly, it's just a fun book on your pull. If you like the character, I think it's a cool fish out of water story. I don't think it reinvents the wheel by any means, but the artwork's fun. If you really enjoyed the Agent Carter television show, I think you're going to like this. And just, MCU in general, I think you'll enjoy this story. I don't think it blew my mind. I don't know if it'll continue to, not blow my mind, but I'm having fun with it. And the artwork is very solid. And I think Peggy's voice really carries the whole book, and I enjoy her. So overall, giving that 3 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers issue 18, and I really enjoyed this issue. Honestly, my only downside was really art style. I thought was, kind of rougher than I expected for a book like this. I definitely wanted some clean pencils, and it was a little dark, but I really liked the things explored here that normally aren't explored in the television show. Like, we get to see the Zords and where they're kept, and we get to see the other half of the Power Rangers having a mission underwater. The visuals are just super interesting for this issue, but then we get to see Rocky have time with his family and connect with Matt, a character that is more connected to the original Power Rangers. So I enjoyed the character moments, I enjoyed the visuals of this issue, and it was a pretty simple issue, and I just had a fun time with it. So overall, giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Superman Son of Kal-El, issue 10. I thought things picked up here a bit. I still don't love the plot for this book. I don't know if I'm so interested in the truth and in the Lex Luthor storyline, but I enjoyed the small character moments, especially between Lois and John, where John finally comes out to Lois, and I thought it was a very cute scene. I feel like the build up to that scene could have been a little better. The transition felt a little whiplashy, where Jay's like, oh, you haven't talked to her about, you being queer yet, and it kind of came out of nowhere that he mentioned that, and I kind of wish there was a moment where Jay's like, oh, you could take your time, or just having a bigger conversation about that. I just kind of wish that was the bigger part of the issue. I feel like it took a lot of real estate to do other stuff that I don't think progressed the plot that much, and I feel like that should have been the main center of this issue. But there's the moments between Lois and John that I really liked, and I like the ending where Batman comes in and says you can't trust Jay, so obviously curious to see where that goes, and I think those moments really propelled this issue for me. Artwork also is pretty solid. I love the Lois Lane lasso of truth moment as well, between her and Lex. I thought was great. So there's definitely a lot of good character moments in this issue. So overall, giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is Naomi Season 2, Issue 2. And this issue, started out a little slow for me, where, you have these real butting heads and kind of Bendis-like dialogue, which obviously Bendis wrote it, with a lot of comedy in the beginning with the Justice League, and a lot of dialogue in that beginning to go back and forth. But then I really think it found its stride as it went along, and we found out a little bit more about Dee and his connection to the Hawk people, a little bit more about Naomi's father and where he comes from and how that's connected to the Hawk people and Dee. And yeah, those are the moments I enjoyed, and I'm curious to see where it's gonna go. And I like that Naomi is this kind of glue to the rest of the DC universe. You know, she is new, but she's still connected to, you know, people like Cyborg, who shows up in the end here, or the Justice League, and I enjoy that element of this book and her learning again, she's kind of propelled to know all these big and great people, but still dealing with these family moments. And the artwork is just tremendous for this book. It's so good, and some of the best artwork on stands right now. So overall, giving that 3.5 stars. I had a good time with it, but I think it took a little while to get into the groove, unlike issue 1, which I feel like got in its groove very quickly. So moving on to number 2, which is 7 Secrets, issue 16. And this book is actually ending soon. I think it's the next issue or the issue after that. And another issue where I felt like it started out a little slow, and I was like, okay, where is this going? We know some of the secrets now, but then really picks up by the end, where we get to learn a little bit more about these demons, a little bit more about the secrets, and Excalibur even shows up here. But the ending, we get to see Casper die, it looks like, and we kind of knew that was going to happen, but is he going to get out of it? Is this really the end of his story? So that was a really cool moment and a big moment, and visually just still, you know, dealing with the anime aesthetics that really worked for this book. So overall, had a good time with this one. It was a very big issue, with the reveals of you know, what these secrets are about and how Casper's connected to them as we kind of lead into this final battle, and maybe never see Casper again. Who really knows? So overall, I gave that 4 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to number 1, which is Reign, issue 4, I believe we're up to. Yes, issue 4. And this issue really went back to what I loved about issue 1, where we get into Honeysuckle, I think her name is, her head, and you know, how she felt about her girlfriend, and the journey to get to the father, and then finding out the devastation that the father had died, and not even because of the rain, but because of this, you know, jerk of a guy and this homophobic guy who it seemed like killed him. And then, you know, Honeysuckle kind of gets a little bit of revenge there. And, you know, she kind of realizes what hope is, and what she got from her found family emotionally, and how that's going to help her in the future with her newfound family. And I just enjoyed it. You know, I really liked the dialogue. I loved her voice here, and I thought it was paced very well. I thought there was a lot of good reveals in this issue. I think we might have one more issue, or maybe this was the ending. If it was the ending, I guess I'm pretty satisfied. I kind of want to see the story continue, but if we have one more issue, love to see that as well, to see, you know, how they wrap things up. But I definitely recommend this book. Really enjoyed it, and overall gave that 4.5 stars, and that is my pick of the week. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Let me know in the comments below what was your pick of the week to have a chance to be featured. And the viewer's pick of the week from last week was Marauders issue 1, and here are some comments about that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.